Meanwhile, at the Hall of Film Threat.
Welcome to the show. I am Chris Gore, joined as always by
Anthony Ray Bench.
and we just got out of Justice League. Well, we just got out of Justice League, and I should emphasize that we did not see an early screening. We weren't invited to a screening.
Thanks, Warner Brothers.
No, but we look. I bought advance tickets, and we went to see the film, and we have just gotten out of it. And this is our.
We survived, yay!
Yeah, we survived. Okay, so first impressions. Let's talk. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
I enjoyed it probably about 40% more than I thought I would.
Yeah, and I'll say saw it with a friend whose thoughts were, the bar was set so low that anything, it could have gone either way, and she enjoyed it. So there you go. So I don't know. Look. Let's talk about the things that really worked about it, right? And I mean, if you
Lead
don't know
off on the positive, then.
Yeah, the focus.
Okay.
Well, let's focus on the positives at least at the beginning before we tear it apart. But I have something to say before we do that. But the positives, the character interaction.
Yeah.
It was the character interaction, and of course, everyone's mentioned the humor. Ezra Miller as the Flash, so fun.
Yeah, in the trailers, I saw the first trailers they released of the movie, and I was just like, man, this guy's gonna get on my nerves. He's going to annoy me. I cannot stand him. And in the movie, I kind of dug him. I thought he was good.
Well, I'll tell you what they did right is the humor is measured. It's not. That's the whole thing of like having a comic relief. Do not overuse it. I look, to this day, I say Jar Jar is not as bad in episode 1 as people say. It's only because Jar Jar gets way too much screen time for a comedic sidekick. That's the problem, is there's too much.
I also think it was the voice.
Well,
like it went with a different voice.
Different voice actor and too much screen time. But the Flash works perfectly, and he has some really great character moments. I mean, a lot of them are
works perfectly, but he's a lot less annoying than I thought he would.
Well, look. I'm a fan of the Flash TV show.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not caught up, but I watched the first 2 seasons of it. And it just got a little when it started breaking off into 7 other TV shows that I had to watch in order to keep up with the Flash.
Yeah.
That's when they lost me. I'm sorry, it's a time thing. So
also, I love that show too, and I'm not caught up as well, but I think it goes a little heavy into the CW teen drama,
right? Although I find myself getting caught up in that. But what's interesting is they took a character that had been done really well in a TV show and did it, kept the essential elements, but then also really made it different and interesting. And the interplay works so well because these other characters, some of the other characters are fearless and badasses, and the Flash is not a badass.
Yeah.
So
I really love, and when I saw it in the trailer, I got a kick out of it. The line about like, you guys are ready for battle. I just run really fast and push people over.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, like that's really neat.
But then you see how much of an asset that actually is to the team. So, okay, Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Yeah.
So, how does that? I mean, he pretty much plays the same guy in every movie.
I honestly think this was the most different role he's ever done.
Really?
That I've seen him do. Yeah, I know he's been in other stuff. But like I was expecting just Khal Drogo in a wetsuit, basically. But no, he had like a lot of humor, and he had some of the best lines. And another thing that people were saying, like people are calling him Aqua Bro. And yeah, he does kind of have those
kind of Aqua Bro
moments, but I thought there was deeper stuff to it, especially that scene with the lasso of truth.
He's like an Affliction t-shirt in the form of a tattoo all over his body.
Yeah.
He sort of acts like that. Like you can smell the Axe body spray, wafting off of him. But look, he was still good.
Definitely hits the beer bongs at parties.
But he did have, I think, one of the best, most humorous moments that we should not ruin in the film.
I think I kind of already did.
Well, I know you didn't ruin it.
Okay.
You can ruin it. But no, he has like there's a great comedic moment with Aquaman that's unintentional. At least he's not trying to be funny, and it's funny.
Yeah.
So that really works. So I do think that this is the one thing that I think we have to give Zack Snyder some credit for, is that he's good at kind of defining these characters, right? Like, at least in terms of not Superman. We'll get to Superman, but I think that, like, the introduction of Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman is one of the best parts of Batman v Superman, and I feel like this Justice League really is a course correction that actually fixes. I mean, there's direct references to things that happened in Batman v Superman that come to fruition here. Some lines that echo from that. And we don't want to get too spoilery.
No,
we'll talk a little bit spoilery stuff, but I don't want to ruin moments.
We had an after movie conversation with some of our friends, and one of them mentioned that there is a total tone shift. And there is a tone shift, but I don't think it's total, because they do reference things from Batman v Superman, and it does make sense how that would change people's attitudes.
It's not like, just to reference an older film franchise that also took a tone shift, was Star Trek The Motion Picture, when that came out in 1979. Mm-hmm. Was very serious, very much more going for a serious science fiction Kubrickian. I mean, that was aspirations to be like Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it was Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is a beloved film of mine. But in the second,
not so much me.
Yeah, but in the second film, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, a total shift in tone, but they never reference anything from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's as if that adventure had never occurred. In this, even though they shift the tone, they do acknowledge they do have like loose ends from the story. I mean, some big ones to take care of. But I think that the tone shift, what's weird is that you can kind of feel like there is this weird mix of that. You can tell the Joss Whedon stuff, which I think is mostly the character driven stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Then Joss Whedon is, and Zack Snyder's all like the battle stuff.
Yeah,
the battles and the fighting.
Slow motion into fast motion, back into slow motion.
Right.
That's kind of his trademark, and honestly, it's really obnoxious.
It's kind of tired after a while.
Yeah. They did a lot of it in Wonder Woman, but at a certain point in the movie, I mean, we are talking spoilers. Superman comes back. If you notice, after Superman comes back, no more fast forward slow motion stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I think for once, this is another positive. We'll focus on the positives for they got Superman right.
Yeah,
it's
finally
bright colored. He smiles. He has a sense of humor.
Yeah,
he's I don't know. It felt like the Superman that you remember, like, well, at least the essence of how Christopher Reeve brought the character to life. But this is Henry Cavill's version. I think it totally works. I think he was untethered from the darkness and the sort of emo.
Yeah, I've said it before, I love Man of Steel, but I don't see that as a Superman movie. I see that as a movie about Clark Kent learning to be Superman. I see it as kind of, he needs to learn how to be the symbol of hope. He needs to learn how to save people. He needs to learn how to inspire people. That's what Batman v Superman should have been. He should have been learning those lessons. In Batman v Superman, they completely learned that, or they completely ignored that.
Well, yeah, but I do think that also, I think that part of the problem with the DC universe has always been just trying to play catch up with Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's they're trying to accelerate. There should have been a Man of Steel 2. They should have built up in like 5 years to do, Justice League.
Yeah, but I mean, my point of bringing up Man of Steel is that I always knew that Henry Cavill had it in him to be the Superman that we know and love, and I wanted to see it happen gradually. A criticism I do have, and it's not necessarily a knock on the movie, it's just a criticism. I think that they didn't really explore why Superman was hopeful after this. They didn't really give him perspective. He just kind of changed his attitude without really there being anything more to it.
Well, it's kind of like when you hear people that have experiences where they have near-death experiences.
Yeah.
car accidents or whatnot, or they have some horrible tragic thing happen, and then they get past it, and then they become a different person. It's almost like Superman went off and did ayahuasca and came out of it. And it was like 10 years of therapy, and he was cured of his emo mopey Superman.
But with Batman, I got that. Like I saw the character growth, and I really appreciated it, because a part of me was just like, oh, he's going to be happy-go-lucky Batman. They aren't really going to touch on the dark stuff. But with Superman, I didn't. Like, he just wakes up like almost like a completely new character, and there is no, explanation, no exploration into why he is the way he is now.
Right. But they just sort of changed tone. I guess you can just say the reboot was a death and a rebirth. The rebirth was the reboot. Effectively, the reboot of the tone of Superman. I just
want more, I guess.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's get into, and these aren't bad. Some of these aren't necessarily bad things or criticisms.
Can I throw my bad one out? Just get it out of the way.
Okay, but I wanted to pivot in a smaller way.
No, we're taking a sharp left turn.
Okay.
Oh my God, the special effects in this were terrible.
Well, the CG was just, there's too much of it.
Everything was awful. Like, nothing looked convincing. Like,
the Henry Cavill's mustache, which is,
his upper lip.
When they did reshoots, they'd show his upper lip, and it's almost like, here's what I think happens. When you have your face, I mean, look, Anthony, you have a large beard. You have you're a large bearded man.
Yeah.
And your face, I think, moves differently when you have facial hair. So when you see, you can remove the mustache, but you can't remove the way a person's face moves.
Yeah.
So I think if you see the pictures of him with that big bushy mustache,
it's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And I think that your face moves differently. Your muscles react differently. So that when they went to remove it, it looks kind of shoddy, So, but it's interesting because there's the way that the movie opens. It opens with this thing that really is a comment on people's criticism of Superman as a character, which is, how many people have you saved?
Yeah.
There are these kids with
like, I like that you caught that. That was awesome.
that was cool. Yeah. It's like, okay, that was definitely a touch. Right. And then they,
that felt like Joss Whedon to me.
That felt like a Joss Whedon thing of like, okay, we're going to fix this by showing they show some like video footage shot with some kids, mobile phone or whatever. And it's them talking to Superman, but it was kids talking to Superman. Right. So, But the one thing is, this movie did feel like less serious or less dire than Batman v Superman, in the sense that I kind of felt like, in a way, I mean, the first hour of the movie is kind of a slog. Once it gets like to Superman Reborn, then it becomes like, you know what it feels like? It feels like one of those feature DC cartoons. And I don't mean this as a criticism or as a negative. It just felt like they really dumbed it down, and they've really made, now the DC universe is for kids, right? A little bit more for kids. I mean, there's jokes that go over kids' heads, but it felt like, just because there was way too much, this is the other thing, way too much explaining of things. They're introducing, Wonder Woman's home, Amazon island, and why they're stuck on the island. They introduce Atlantis and Atlanteans, and like, even that's a world that exists, like, you think that like, okay, they're aliens. Now there's all these things. There are too many things being introduced. It kind of reminded me of the Green Lantern movie, which they kind of have ignored. It's not part of the DC current universe.
Or is it?
Or it's, who knows? But, I felt like they were trying to do too many things in one movie. Deal with the death of Superman, and the formation of the Justice League, and the fact that there's Atlantis. They should have really introduced all of these in separate movies. It wasn't like, as we talked about before, Kevin Feige is the architect of this, and has had all these years to think about putting this together. And I don't know.
Well, I remember even going to the first Man of Steel panel they had in Hall H at Comic-Con. I think this was back in like, I guess 2012, maybe 2011, 2012. But anyways, they did say that they were building towards, a bigger DC universe. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Zack Snyder said was, I'm not interested in just following Marvel's path, which kind of bit them in the ass, because Marvel was smart. They had films that were leading to other films. They weren't just kind of scatterbrained.
Yeah, there's connective tissue in every Marvel movie. There's connective tissue. So,
and most of the characters get their own time to shine. We get their own origin story. We get this and that, and this is the DC approach is kind of working backwards almost.
Right, right.
That didn't bother me as much as it bothers you. Like
Right.
I kind of knew what we were getting at. I'm just happy we got a Wonder Woman movie. Like
I'm just happy we got a Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
She works so really well in the film.
Oh yeah,
she's,
yeah.
I
she's
think
she's the heart and soul of the Justice League, and she's the heart and soul of the Justice League movie.
Right, and probably the DC universe at this point. Although I'd like to see Superman be this Superman in another Superman movie. You know, like even like the Clark Kent. You know, when you see him as Clark Kent, he looks like a better, like everything about him. It's like they redesigned the character in a way. The costume is brighter. Like, it's I don't know.
Still needs the underwear though.
I don't care about that.
I do.
I don't care about that. But the other thing that they did, and we're not going to talk about, we probably shouldn't talk about what happens in it, but they just straight up just said, all right, fuck it. You want a Marvel tag scene? There's like 2 end credit scenes, like a mid one, sort of a one just before, sort of a mid credit scene, and then a final end of the credit scene.
Yeah.
And it was worth staying for. I'm so happy. Like, look, just do it. Audiences love it. They love Easter eggs.
Yeah.
They love setup for something else.
It's almost a security blanket that like you guys have a plan.
Right. Like just tell me, because I remember even when I first saw the first Superman, right? 1978, at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
If you stayed to the very end of the credits, it says Superman will be back in Superman 2. You know,
and they got the year wrong though, right?
Yeah, they said like next year.
Yeah,
which they didn't, because they were trying to shoot Superman 1 and 2 back to back, but then it led to the like kind of cheating the actors out of money.
Yeah,
you know, because they were signed for one movie but didn't realize they were shooting 2. Anyways,
so unlike Hollywood to screw over actors.
Yeah, well, I mean that's been well documented, and you can even listen to it in like commentary, and Richard Donner talk about that. But yeah, and they used to do that at the end of James Bond movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the James Bond, there'd be a little tag. Now all it was, the tag at the end. So the tag at the end was always in text. But now are they bringing that to life with little tags that set up something that may occur in an upcoming film? So
well,
DC just finally gave in and said, "All right, we know you love that. We're just going to."
Here's the thing about that though.
Like, we're not going to. We shouldn't really talk.
No. We all want to forget about this. I know I certainly do. But Suicide Squad was the first to have a tag.
Right.
A post-credit tag.
Yeah. What was the post-credit tag?
The post-credit tag was Amanda Waller sitting there, and then Bruce Wayne walks up and gets information about the Justice League from her. So that wasn't a first.
Right.
But this was done well.
This was the first time it was done where
it didn't feel tacked on. It felt like, all right, like,
it felt like, oh, this is actually setting stuff up.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. So now here, can I just mention something? The minute I get out of the movie, I'm sitting there, I'm smiling, I'm going, okay, this is cool. Like my inner like 10-year-old that used to watch Super Friends as a kid, or used to watch the Batman animated series with Batmite, or used to watch the Adam West Batman, or, you know, any of the 1940s Superman cartoons, the Max Fleischer ones.
Yeah.
Like,
I love those.
Oh my God. Those are cool. Like just, and also used to watch the Wonder Woman series with Linda Carter, you know, like all these things I watched. So the kid in me that grew up with this stuff really loved a lot of parts of this film. It did feel like it was made for that. It was really,
and not in a bad way, I don't think.
Not in a bad way. I think that kids, this is the first DC movie that I think will appeal to kids. Like kids will actually enjoy this.
And not fall asleep an hour in.
Exactly. So here I get out of the movie, and all I send out a tweet. I'm like, oh, you know, look, I enjoyed it. Not a great movie, but an enjoyable. So I said, well, they figured out how to make a fun DC movie. Now they just have to figure out how to make a really good one, very enjoyable. And they finally got Superman right. He smiles. This is a post that I sent out. And immediately people start arguing, you're a Marvel fanboy and you're on Marvel's payroll.
Yeah.
And it's all this like hater. And I'm just like, this is what, you know, like, look, I actually don't care if people disliked it. I tend to actually enjoy reading people's opinions that are different from mine, just because I feel like that's my opportunity to learn something.
You're always bummed when like I'm like, I like that movie, and you're like, I liked it too.
Yeah.
You get excited when it's like, I hated that movie.
No. That's not my point. My point is that I don't mind if people have different opinions. Yeah. But the thing is this, the thing that bothers me now is that people feel they need to have an opinion about your opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like my opinion is this. Someone feels this. I'm not criticizing people for liking it. I'm not criticizing people for disliking it. This is just how I feel. And you can agree or not, and that's cool. But the fact that it turns into then suddenly a thread of people hating on me and then hating on each other. I mean, this is what fandom has come to. It's the opinion about your opinion.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a debate. And you know what? I think that's stupid. It's ridiculous.
You'll get a kick out of this. This is actually a tweet I sent out a few days ago. I wrote, "The internet summed up in one tweet. Here are my opinions. Those are not the same as my opinions. Go kill yourself."
Right. That's
the internet.
That's the internet, which is really, it's not the internet also. It's a dysfunction in how we talk to each other.
Communicate, yeah.
I mean, I really believe that there is a huge miscommunication like in the world. I'm not just talking about fandom. I'm like just in people in general. We haven't figured out how to disagree with someone and live with someone.
Yeah. A funny thing. So you're talking about the Marvel versus DC fanboys. Apparently Joss Whedon is in hot water, and I say the word hot water with giant air quotations. He liked somebody's tweet that said Steppenwolf, the bad guy in Justice League, was one of the worst villains of all comic book movies, and Joss Whedon liked that tweet. Mm-hmm. And that led to a massive, fuck you, Joss Whedon. You don't care about the DC universe.
All he did was like it.
Yeah, all he did was like it.
Oh my god!
And that started a Twitter war.
Well, that's pretty. I mean, I actually am not a fan of. I mean, and Steppenwolf isn't the problem. It's. I mean, first of all, it's not good. It's not a good. First of all, it's a villain that, for the most part, I mean, Steppenwolf is related to Darkseid. I don't know.
Yeah, he's Darkseid's uncle.
Darkseid's uncle. Okay.
Yeah.
Darkseid's uncle. All right. But Steppenwolf is, for the most part, in mainstream culture, people think of Steppenwolf as a band.
I thought of him as a comic book character, but okay.
But look, I just think that more people probably know the band than that.
I agree.
Yeah, which is this Steppenwolf. So I'm like, Steppenwolf, the band? What is? But here's the problem: is not Steppenwolf. It is a and this happens in Marvel movies and in, it happened at the end of Wonder Woman. It happened at the, a lot of these movies is when the villain is digital. Suicide Squad. Like you could make a list of Marvel and DC movies that fit digital. Villains don't work, period. What works? Best villain in the Marvel universe, my opinion, Loki. One of the best villains that's sort of now a conflicted villain. And Hela in the recent Thor Ragnarok was fantastic, right? Cate Blanchett as, this is a person, obviously augmented by digital effects and whatnot, which is fine. But when you have, there's no greater villain than an actor's performance, and which would show, my favorite parts of Justice League aren't the fight scenes per se. It's
because they're all terrible.
It's some of them were pretty fun. The stuff with the Flash, it was cool. Like it's a scene out of the trailer where he kind of he just sort of pushes Wonder Woman's sword awesome. Like toward her, and there's a payoff to that, and
that got a big audience reaction.
It got a big audience reaction. It was kind of funny because it's like just sort of shows dude's making these little corrections.
Yeah,
he doesn't have super strength necessarily. Although you would think that, like, technically speaking, he would probably have to wear goggles if he was going that fast. But I don't know. They didn't really explain how his powers work, which is kind of also a problem. Is when you're introducing these fantastical characters, you need to know what the rules are, and the rules are this, and the character's weakness is this, and it needs to be unveiled, and that's in a clever way. And that's but the digital, like, to me, one of the greatest villains in movie history, I think it's crazy. Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon. Stop. Just this week I went to the
I know,
screening and after party for a documentary called Life After Flash, which is about what happened to Sam Jones after Flash Gordon came out. And what happened with his career, all the turmoil behind the scenes about the making of that film, a lot of things that I didn't know. And I happen to have a very small part in that documentary, and I'm sure it'll come out at some point. But Ming the Merciless in that, Max von Sydow, is so fantastic in that film. Actor, right? I mean, there are moments in that are chilling when he talks about just how unimportant and puny man is. And I just think that you can't do the digital villain. Steppenwolf, I mean, you look at the face and he's kind of moving. The voice actor did a fine job, but you need an actor. This is my fear with Thanos in Infinity War that we're about to get soon, is that we're going to get this another digital villain, and it's not going to be. I mean, Thanos looked pretty good actually in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't believe that digital villains. It's because the way our brains work. It's just there's something about digital effects that is emotionally distancing because we're detached from it because it doesn't look like something real. I think there's and there are a few directors that are good at marrying digital and real effects. I think one of those directors is Steven Spielberg. Look at the films that he's made that some not all, but like when you look at like War of the Worlds, what he did with that, I thought that it was a mix of. Christopher Nolan, I think, is very good at mixing digital. He does a lot of things also with bigatures.
Yeah, right? With Christopher Nolan, you can barely tell what's CG and what's not.
And a lot of them are miniatures. You wouldn't know, but they call them bigatures. They're like 1/4 scale. And then they shoot with those, and I've seen them. I've seen them actually in person. They're incredible. These bigatures.
Super detailed, yeah.
Incredibly detailed. And you wouldn't know that so many of there's that chase scene in The Dark Knight, and that's a lot of that chase scene is done with bigatures, with these, big giant models, right? And but so I think that just the digital effects look very digital. There were a couple shots I could not believe they were in the movie. Like they were just so bad. And the Henry Cavill mustache removal is distracting.
Well, you know what? One of the shots that drove me insane was the Justice League takes off from one of Batman's jets, and there's a weird shot of Alfred like standing on like the dock, like looking up into the sky. Mm-hmm. And it was so ugly and so fake looking that just drove me insane.
Well, among others, there were some things in like there's a sort of a flashback sequence to previous in Earth's history, and that looked like a PlayStation 2 video game, a PS2. Like I seriously was thinking like I haven't seen CG that bad since I played on my PS2.
Even when Superman first comes back and he's kind of like floating around and the Justice League are kind of going after him. I was just like, that looks terrible. That looks worse than like the 77 or 79. I mean, like Superman flying around on a string.
But there was also something about the movie that lacked an epic feel because they really did. I feel like the thing is they overreacted to a lot of things with fans where
I was just gonna say that
they
like they literally contained the threat inside of a small town
where like
that was abandoned
lived. Like an abandoned town. So although there's a good payoff to that later, which is pretty cool. So I mean I think the last third of the movie, which I didn't expect, was probably the most fun, but it felt so much like a Super Friends episode where people are worried about safety and people falling, and that it was like, but like
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it. I feel like, you can get into some dark stuff in some of the other movies, but I still feel like DC is not on the right path yet. They're almost there.
Yeah,
this is a step in the right direction.
I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but please listen to my words carefully because they are carefully chosen. Wonder Woman is a better film than Justice League, but I had a better time watching Justice League.
Completely agree. Mm-hmm. Completely agree. And Wonder Woman also a film flawed by the final scene in terms of a digital villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very digital villain. But you're right about that. It's a Wonder Woman seemed a little draggy and a little
long in the tooth. Yeah, for sure.
Long in the tooth, and it kind of doesn't reach the heights. There's that midpoint scene where she really becomes Wonder Woman.
Yeah, one of the best action scenes I've seen in years.
Great, and it's such a great scene, and yet nothing else in the rest of the movie is as good as that scene.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on the show before, but my girlfriend and I, we went to go see the movie at the drive-in. And after No Man's Land, the scene where Wonder Woman becomes basically Wonder Woman and does the heroic stuff, right after that scene, I was like, you know what? We can go home now.
Right.
And we left. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is it's really interesting, like tone and pacing with these things. It really just feels like more with DC. I think Marvel's, they're all on the same page, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, when we say that there are too many cooks, there are too many contrasting opinions. It feels like there's more of a vision behind the Marvel films. And no, just to address people who responded to my tweet, I am not on Marvel's payroll. They have
we wish
paid me nothing. So yeah, I've given them more money than they ever have in terms of comic books over my lifetime and DVDs that I've purchased and movies that I've paid to go see.
Yep.
You know, and on occasion I get invited to a screening, but you know, aside from that, I'll go see the movie. I don't know. I saw Thor like 3 times. So
yeah, I've seen it twice.
Quite enjoyed it. So, Justice League. What's our? Obviously, the tag scenes set up more things happening.
Yeah,
but I wonder that the pace of this, because
can we go into straight spoilers with this?
Okay, this is now we're going spoiler because it's almost the end of the podcast. Anyways, we're doing a shorter version of our podcast. But yeah. So we can get in. We should get into it. But before you do that,
I'm chomping at the bit with this.
But before you do that, I do want to say I think that the part of the problem with the DC films is they need to be coming out at the same pace that the Marvel movies are, which are 2 to 3 a year.
Yeah.
And I think that once they are getting to 2 to 3 DC movies a year, then it just doesn't feel like one is, you know, there can be one that's just okay, and then one that's awesome, and one that's more amazing, and like this is good. And I think that I think they're listening, but maybe almost too much in an overreactionary. And I think that a lot of that is probably from, you know, the executives. And I have a good friend who said, well, I'm just going to say straight up, it was John Schnepp who said that he's curious to see what the Zack Snyder version of Justice League would have been. You know, I am curious also, but I think we ended up getting the movie that this needed to be. The course correction, right?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I would be more interested in seeing the 100% Joss Whedon version of the Justice League.
I heard it was like maybe 15 or 20%.
Yeah,
is really what Joss contributed, which is why Zack Snyder got the final director credit.
Yeah.
But you know. Anyways,
we'll never know.
But look, I think it bodes well for the future. I think I agree with most of the. I don't agree with the negative reviews. I don't agree with the wildly positive reviews. I think it's mixed, and I think that like I just kept seeing. I don't know. I think people put too much stock in the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Yeah.
Even though I like Rotten Tomatoes and I don't think they're evil, but because Film Threats reviews actually. We're a part of that system.
Verified.
Well, yeah. But Dan Leibarger from our Film Threat reviewer gave it a 6 out of 10, and I think that's fair. It's 6 out of 10, maybe a 7.
I would go 7.5.
6, maybe 6.5. But you know, just you know, it was fun. It was enjoyable. Not a great movie. Not an epic movie. And there you go. No, wait. Okay, so now from here on out, spoilers about the thing and
the post-credits scene.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so I remember seeing the first Avengers movie, and Thanos pops up, and you know the whole, you know, to challenge them is to court death, and then he turns around and smiles, and I lost my shit. I was like, all right, Avengers 2, they're gonna fight Thanos. Like, this is what I've been waiting for all my life. I never thought we would see Thanos on screen. I always thought they would go with like a human-looking, you know, villain, or, you know, it was just one of those things that blew my mind. And I remember being at Comic-Con in Hall H, and they showed the teaser for Avengers 2, and it became like it was the Iron Man helmet that gets dented and formed into Ultron's head. And I was like, fuck me. Like, I don't care about Ultron. Like, I want to see them fight Thanos. And I think a big reason why I didn't like Avengers Age of Ultron is because I was like, all right, let's just get to Thanos. Come on. Like, you teased Thanos. Let's get to him. In this movie, they teased Darkseid, which is another big favorite of mine. At the post-credit scene, they're teasing a fucking Legion of Doom movie. Just get to Darkseid. Come on, man. Like, no, I don't want him.
It's okay. I mean, look, I think that's going to be. I think what they're setting up is Man of Steel 2. Here's what they did with that.
I hope so.
They're setting up Man of Steel 2 and Batman 2. That's what they're setting up. So a second Batman movie, maybe a Ben Affleck one. Who knows? But they're setting up these other spinoffs. I don't think they were setting up another Justice League movie. I think the Darkseid could be that. But I think what'll happen is you're going to see them go to another planet. You're going to see another planet. I predict. That's my prediction. All right. So what's the final verdict?
The final verdict is I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
And I give it a 6, between a 6 and a 6.5 out of 10. But I get a 6 out of 10.
Well, I feel like I shit talked it more than you did.
Yeah, I think you hate it, but like it's mixed and it's fun, but fun doesn't translate to good. But that's like you said about Wonder Woman. Like I think Wonder Woman was a better movie that had more fun with Justice League. And there you go. And what's so funny? You know what we didn't talk about at all?
What?
Cyborg.
Oh, yeah. He was in the movie. I forgot.
He was in the movie. What's so funny is just like how that character just wasn't developed. We didn't know what his powers were. We didn't understand what his origin was because we never saw it. We only saw it in a YouTube clip at the end of Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Where, at some point in Batman v Superman, we see those little files that had logos, which is weird.
He was just boring. Like he was almost kind of like a.
And he's more of a threat because he isn't in control of his powers.
He's not in control.
So why do you want to have him around? Like,
yeah, maybe just leave him at the Batcave.
Like
he was the brooding one. Like you see a movie with Batman, and Batman's not the most brooding one. Like that's weird.
And technically, if you go back, they actually kind of changed the footage, which I thought was really gruesome. The footage in Batman v Superman is a part of a body. It's literally part of a body, but when they redid that footage for Justice League, you actually see him more whole, right?
I didn't notice
that.
Oh,
I noticed it. Yeah. I noticed it because if you think about it, Cyborg has no dick unless it's a metal dick. Seriously, go back and watch the footage from Batman v Superman with the Cyborg clip. They show he's sort of chopped and it's like his, bottom part is gone. Mm. He has no legs, but no bottom half. He's sort of and no arm on one side. He kind of has like a arm here, and he's sort of reassembled as mechanical, but it's just
I think I know where you're going.
So Cyborg
with this
has no
one.
dick. And so these are the things. If you listen to the Film Threat podcast, you would not hear Cyborg has no dick. But they did they reference that scene that was shown in the clip, and then they show his body, and it's on a gurney, and it's the same position and the same thing, but he's more whole. Go back because you're gonna go see Justice League again, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably
see it at the drive-in.
Yeah, that would be great. I think it's a good drive-in movie.
Cool.
I thought you were kind of taking the conversation into a direction that implies
that Cyborg has no dick.
Yeah, I thought you were implying that Cyborg is brooding and moody because he has no dick. I thought that's where you're going with it.
No, but I think that would
makes
be
sense.
A reason to not to be brooding. I think that would be a good cause. Okay.
He's just a boring character.
Justice League, fun, and there you are. And thanks for listening.
Let's get out of here.